My name is Maria Santos. I'm 29 years old, and 3 months ago, I discovered that my husband of 6 years had been living a double life that would make your blood run cold. But here's what you need to know right now. What I'm about to tell you connects to something so much darker than simple infidelity. Every detail matters, every clue I missed, every lie he told. Because by the end of this story, you'll understand that some betrayals run deeper than you could ever imagine. And the revenge? It was just the beginning. So buckle up, because this isn't just about a cheating husband. This is about a web of deception that goes back years. And trust me when I say you need to hear every single word until the very end. It started on a Tuesday morning in February. I was making coffee in our pristine kitchen, the one David had insisted we renovate last year. Everything had to be perfect, he'd said. Everything had to look successful. I should have known then that appearances meant more to him than reality. The coffee maker gurgled to life as I scrolled through my phone. That's when I saw it. A notification from our joint credit card. A charge for $200 at Bella Vista Resort and Spa. My heart stopped. We'd been planning our anniversary trip to Bella Vista for months. It was supposed to be our romantic getaway. Our chance to reconnect after David's demanding work schedule had pulled us apart. The same resort where he'd proposed 5 years ago. But this charge? It was dated for next week. A full month before our planned trip. I stared at the screen, my hands trembling slightly. There had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe David had changed our reservation without telling me. Maybe he was planning a surprise. But deep down, in that place where women's intuition lives, I knew. I knew this wasn't a mistake. This was something else entirely. I heard David's footsteps on the stairs. Quick, confident strides that had once made me feel safe. Now they made my stomach clench with dread. "Morning, beautiful," he said, kissing the top of my head as he reached for his travel mug. He was already dressed in his expensive suit, the one I'd bought him for Christmas. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his cologne subtle but expensive. Everything about David was calculated. I was just too in love to see it. "David," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I saw a charge on our card. For Bella Vista. Next week." He paused, just for a second, but I caught it. That micro-expression of panic that flashed across his face before he composed himself. "Oh, that?" he said, his voice casual. Too casual. "I had to change our reservation. Work emergency. I figured it would be better to go earlier, get ahead of the busy season." Earlier? I felt my world tilting. But next week is when Jennifer's wedding is. You know I'm her maid of honor. We've talked about this for months. David's jaw tightened. "I know it's not ideal, Maria, but this client meeting is crucial. The Peterson account could make or break my promotion." "What client meeting?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "You never mentioned a client meeting." "It's new, just came up." He was already moving toward the door, avoiding my eyes. "Look, I'm sorry about Jennifer's wedding, but this is important. For us. For our future." Our future. I repeated the words like they were foreign. "David, I can't just abandon my best friend's wedding. I'm her maid of honor. She'll understand. She's always understood." And there it was. The casual dismissal. The assumption that everyone in my life would simply accommodate his needs. How many times had I heard that phrase? She'll understand. They'll understand. You'll understand. But I didn't understand. Not anymore. After David left, I sat in our kitchen, staring at my phone. The charge glowed on the screen like an accusation. $4,200 for a week-long stay at Bella Vista. But here's what didn't make sense. Our original reservation was only $2,800. So why was this new charge so much more? I called the resort. "Bella Vista Resort and Spa. This is Christina speaking. How may I help you?" "Hi. I'm calling about a reservation under David Santos. I wanted to confirm the details." "Of course. Let me pull that up for you." "Oh, I see you have the luxury suite package. Very romantic. 2 guests arriving next Tuesday for 5 nights. Will you be needing the couples massage package as well?" 2 guests. Luxury suite. Couples massage. My hands went numb. "I'm sorry," I managed. "Can you confirm the names on the reservation?" "Certainly, David Santos, and let me see, Sofia Martinez." The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the granite countertop. Sofia Martinez, David's assistant, the woman who'd been working late with him every night for the past 6 months. The woman who called him at all hours about urgent client matters. The woman who always seemed to have a reason to touch his arm during company parties. I'd suspected. Deep down, I'd known something was wrong. But hearing her name attached to our dream vacation, our anniversary destination, felt like a physical blow. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. I went through the motions of my job as a marketing coordinator at a small firm downtown. I answered emails, I attended meetings, I smiled at coworkers, but inside, I was screaming. That evening, David came home with flowers. White roses, my favorite. He'd never bought me flowers spontaneously before. "I'm sorry about today," he said, pulling me close. "I know the timing is terrible, but this trip is going to be so good for us. Just the two of us. No distractions. Just the two of us." The lie sat between us like a living thing. "I love you, Maria," he whispered, his lips against my hair. "You know that, right?" I should have confronted him then, should have demanded the truth, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I held him tight and whispered back, "I love you too." It was the last true thing I would say to him for weeks. That night, while David slept beside me, I lay awake planning. Not revenge, not yet. First, I needed to know everything. I needed to understand the scope of his betrayal. I needed to know how long this had been going on, how deep the deception ran. I started with his phone. David was a creature of habit, and his passcode had been our anniversary date for years. His phone unlocked on the first try. What I found there changed everything. Messages going back 8 months. Photos that should have been of me. Plans for weekends I thought he was working. Hotel receipts. Restaurant reservations. All with Sophia. But it wasn't just the infidelity that made my blood run cold. It was the way he talked about me. The jokes about my clingy behavior. The complaints about my boring friends. The casual dismissal of my dreams and ambitions. "She still thinks we're going to have kids," he'd written to Sophia just last week. As if I'd want to be tied down to this life forever. Kids. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years. He'd been telling me he wanted children, while telling his mistress he never wanted to be tied down. In another message, he'd written, "The vacation will be perfect. I've got it all planned out. I'll tell her about the work emergency, leave her behind, and we'll have our own romantic getaway. She'll never know." Our romantic getaway. The place where he'd proposed. The place where I dreamed of celebrating our future together. I screenshot every message, every photo, every receipt. I forwarded them to a private email account I created just for this purpose. I documented everything with the methodical precision of someone building a case, because that's exactly what I was doing. By the time David's alarm went off at 6 a.m., I had a plan. It wasn't about revenge yet. It was about justice. It was about making sure that his betrayal had consequences. It was about reclaiming my power in a situation where I'd been powerless. David stirred beside me, reaching for his phone. I watched him check his messages, saw him smile at something Sophia had written. My husband was lying in bed next to me, smiling at messages from his mistress. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, just like he had every morning for 6 years. "Good morning," I replied, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. He had no idea that I knew. No idea that his perfect plan was about to become his worst nightmare. As David got ready for work, I mentally reviewed my checklist. I had 1 week to prepare. 1 week to turn his romantic escape into something he'd never forget. The man who'd taught me to love deeply was about to learn what it meant to betray someone who loved him more than life itself. And the best part, he had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think, to plan, to prepare for what was coming. David kissed me goodbye, probably thinking about Sophia, probably counting down the hours until their secret getaway. I waited until I heard his car pull out of the driveway before I started making calls. First, I called my best friend Jennifer. "Maria, aren't you supposed to be at work?" "Jen, I need to tell you something, and I need your help." I told her everything, the credit card charge, the phone call to the resort, the messages I'd found on David's phone. With each detail, I watched my perfect life crumble a little more. "That bastard," Jennifer breathed. "Maria, I'm so sorry. What can I do?" "I need you to help me pack his suitcase," I said, "and I need you to help me pack mine." "Yours? You're still going?" "Oh, I'm definitely going, but not with him." The plan was simple in its elegance. David had booked himself a romantic getaway with his mistress, using our shared credit card, to the resort where he'd proposed to me. He thought he was going to surprise Sophia with a luxurious week of cheating on his wife. Instead, I was going to surprise him. Jennifer arrived within the hour, armed with coffee and a determination to help me execute the most satisfying revenge plot in history. "Okay," she said, rolling up her sleeves. "Walk me through this." David's flight leaves Tuesday at 8 a.m. He told me he's going to Chicago for business meetings. He's meeting Sophia at the airport. I found their travel confirmations in his email. And you? I'm taking the flight that leaves 3 hours later. Same destination, same resort. I've already booked myself a room using my own credit card. Jennifer's eyes widened. You're going to show up at their romantic getaway? I'm going to do more than that. I pulled out David's suitcase, the expensive leather set I'd bought him for his birthday. I'm going to make sure their trip is memorable. We spent the next 2 hours carefully packing David's suitcase, but not with what he'd expect. Instead of his designer suits, I packed his old college t-shirts, the ones with holes and stains that he'd refused to throw away but never wore in public. Instead of his expensive cologne, I packed my vanilla body spray. Instead of his sleek swimming trunks, I packed the ridiculous holiday boxer shorts his mother had given him 3 Christmases ago, the ones with dancing reindeer. Instead of his Italian leather shoes, I packed his old running sneakers, the ones that smelled like a gym locker. But the pièce de résistance was the gifts. I'd found receipts for expensive jewelry, perfume, and lingerie that David had bought for Sophia. Hundreds of dollars worth of romantic presents that were supposed to make their secret vacation perfect. Those gifts were still in his home office, wrapped and waiting. I unwrapped every single one. The diamond earrings went back in their box, but I replaced them with the plastic ones I'd gotten from a gumball machine. The expensive perfume was carefully emptied and refilled with water. The silk lingerie was swapped out for the granny panties I'd found in the back of my drawer. Then I wrapped everything back up, perfectly, so David wouldn't know until Sophia opened them. "This is diabolical," Jennifer said, watching me work. "And absolutely brilliant. I'm not done yet." The next step was the most important. I needed to make sure the hotel staff knew exactly what kind of man David Santos was. I called the resort again. "Bella Vista Resort and Spa, this is Christina speaking." "Hi, Christina, this is Maria Santos. I spoke with you yesterday about my husband's reservation." "Oh, yes, Mrs. Santos. How can I help you?" "Well, I wanted to let you know that I'll be arriving at the resort as well, separately from my husband. You see, I've discovered that he's bringing his mistress on what was supposed to be our anniversary trip." There was a pause. "Oh my, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Santos. I'm not looking to cause a scene," I continued. "I just wanted to make sure your staff is aware of the situation. I'll be checking in under my maiden name, Maria Rodriguez. I'm hoping to surprise my husband and his companion." "Of course, I'll make sure to note this in your file. And Mrs. Santos, if there's anything we can do to help make your stay more comfortable, please let us know." Actually, there is one thing. David's companion thinks she's the only woman in his life. She has no idea he's married. I think it might be educational for her to learn the truth. I could hear the smile in Christina's voice. "I understand completely. We'll make sure she gets the full picture." The rest of the week passed in a blur of preparation. I took vacation days, telling my boss I needed time to handle a family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. I went shopping for new clothes. Not because I needed them, but because I wanted to look stunning when David saw me. I wanted him to remember exactly what he was losing. I bought a red dress that hugged my curves in all the right places. New swimwear that made me feel confident and powerful. Expensive lingerie that was for me, not for any man who'd proven he didn't deserve it. I got my hair done, my nails done, a facial that made my skin glow. I wanted to look like the woman David had fallen in love with, but stronger, more confident, more dangerous, because that's what I was becoming. Dangerous. On Sunday night, David started packing. I watched him from the bedroom doorway, heart pounding as he opened his suitcase. "This feels heavier than usual," he muttered, hefting the bag. "Maybe you're just getting old," I teased, amazed at how normal my voice sounded. He laughed, pulling me close. I'm gonna miss you while I'm gone. Are you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. David's eyes searched my face. Of course I am. Maria, you're my wife. I love you. Do you? I asked quietly. Do you really? Something flickered across his expression. Guilt? Fear? But then he smiled, that charming smile that had made me fall in love with him. You're being silly, he said, kissing my forehead. I'll be back Friday and we'll have our own vacation. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. The same lie he'd told Sophia, probably. That night, I lay in bed next to my husband, listening to him sleep. Tomorrow, he would wake up and begin what he thought would be the perfect week with his mistress. He would kiss me goodbye, probably feeling guilty for about 30 seconds, then spend the entire flight to paradise thinking about another woman. But I had a different plan. I had already called the airline and upgraded my ticket to first class. I had already arranged for a rental car to be waiting at the airport. I had already confirmed my reservation at the resort, a suite just 3 doors down from David and Sophia's room. Most importantly, I had already made contact with someone who would help me execute the final phase of my plan. You see, David wasn't the only one with secrets. While he'd been busy planning his affair, I'd been busy discovering things about him that even I didn't know. Things that made this betrayal even more devastating. But that's a story for later. Right now, I had a vacation to catch. At 4 a.m., I slipped out of bed and gathered my things. My suitcase was packed with beautiful clothes, expensive toiletries, and a confidence I'd been building all week. I left a note on the kitchen counter. David, gone to handle some business of my own. Have fun on your work trip, Maria. He would read it and think I was being supportive. He would have no idea that I knew about Sophia. He would have no idea that I was going to be at the same resort watching his every move. He would have no idea that his perfect crime was about to become his perfect nightmare. As I drove to the airport in the pre-dawn darkness, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Power. Control. The intoxicating rush of being 3 steps ahead of someone who thought he was smarter than me. David Santos was about to learn that underestimating your wife is the most dangerous mistake a cheating husband can make. And I was about to learn that sometimes the best revenge is simply letting someone hang themselves with their own rope. The plane was boarding when I arrived at the airport. First class, just like I'd planned. I settled into my seat with a glass of champagne and watched the sunrise through the airplane window. Somewhere below me, David was probably just waking up, getting ready for what he thought would be the perfect getaway. He had no idea that his wife was already in the air, heading to the same destination, with a plan that would change everything. The flight attendant offered me another glass of champagne. Special occasion? She asked. You could say that, I replied, smiling. I'm about to give my husband the surprise of his life. I landed in paradise at 2 p.m., 3 hours before David and Sophia's flight was scheduled to arrive. The tropical air hit me like a warm embrace as I stepped off the plane, and for a moment I almost forgot why I was there. Bella Vista Resort was even more beautiful than I remembered. Pristine white beaches, crystal clear water, and lush tropical gardens that smelled like jasmine and possibility. This should have been my romantic getaway. Instead, it was going to be my husband's worst nightmare. Welcome to Bella Vista, Mrs. Rodriguez, the concierge said, checking me in under my maiden name. Your suite is ready, and I believe Christina spoke with you about your special circumstances? She did. Thank you for being so accommodating. Not at all. We have a strict policy about supporting our guests through difficult situations. Your husband's reservation is for the Ocean View Suite, 3 doors down from yours. We've taken the liberty of ensuring you have a clear view of his comings and goings. I almost laughed. Even the hotel staff was on my side. My suite was spectacular. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean, and the balcony was perfect for surveillance. I unpacked my beautiful new clothes, set up my camera equipment, and prepared for the show to begin. At 4:30 p.m., I positioned myself on my balcony with a book and a glass of wine. From there, I had a perfect view of the main walkway leading to the suites. I didn't have to wait long. David appeared first, looking every inch the successful businessman in his expensive suit. He was pulling his suitcase behind him, and I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. He had no idea what surprises waited inside that bag. Sophia appeared moments later, and I got my first good look at my husband's mistress. She was beautiful, I had to admit. Tall, with glossy black hair and the kind of figure that looked perfect in the designer dress she was wearing. The dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. They were holding hands, walking close together like lovers on their honeymoon, which, I suppose, they thought they were. I watched them approach David's suite, saw him fumble with the key card, saw Sophia laugh at something he whispered in her ear. They looked happy, carefree, like two people who had never hurt anyone in their lives. They disappeared inside, and I settled in to wait. The first sign of trouble came 20 minutes later. I heard David's voice through the thin walls, raised in confusion. "What the hell? These aren't my clothes." I couldn't hear Sophia's response, but I could imagine her confusion as David unpacked dancing reindeer boxer shorts and college t-shirts instead of the designer wardrobe she was expecting. 10 minutes later, David stormed out onto his balcony, phone pressed to his ear. I ducked behind my book and listened. Maria, what the hell is going on? Someone switched my suitcase. All my clothes they're not mine." I could hear the panic in his voice, the confusion. This wasn't part of his perfect plan. "What do you mean you don't know anything about it?" he continued. "Well, what am I supposed to wear? No, I can't just go shopping. Sophia's here, and she's not happy." I smiled into my wine glass. Poor David. His romantic getaway was already falling apart, and he had no idea this was just the beginning. That evening, I got dressed for dinner. The red dress that made me look like a goddess, my hair styled in loose waves, makeup that highlighted my best features. I looked like a woman who had never been hurt, never been betrayed, never been discarded for a younger model. I looked like a woman who was dangerous. The resort's main restaurant was elegant and intimate, with candlelit tables overlooking the ocean. I requested a table for one, positioned perfectly to observe the entire dining room. David and Sophia entered at 8 p.m. He was wearing one of his college t-shirts and khakis that had seen better days. She was in a stunning black dress that probably cost more than my car payment, and she looked mortified to be seen with him. They were seated at a romantic table for two, complete with rose petals and champagne. David was trying to play it off, making jokes about his luggage mishap, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Sophia wasn't laughing. "Excuse me," I heard her say to the waiter. "Could we get some more wine? And perhaps you could recommend something for my friend's wardrobe situation?" The waiter, who had clearly been briefed by Christina, smiled sympathetically. "Of course, miss. Though I should mention we do have a dress code for dinner. Perhaps Mr. Santos would be more comfortable in our casual dining area." David's face went red. "I'm fine right here." "I'm sure you are, sir. It's just that some of our other guests have expressed concerns." I watched David's perfect evening crumble a little more. He'd wanted to impress Sophia with his sophistication, his ability to provide luxury and romance. Instead, he looked like someone who'd gotten dressed in the dark. But the real show was just beginning. At 8:30, Christina appeared at their table with a bottle of champagne. "Compliments of the house," she said, pouring glasses for both of them. "We like to celebrate special occasions here at Bella Vista." "Thank you," David said, clearly confused. "But we didn't mention any special occasion." "Oh, my mistake," Christina said, her smile bright and innocent. "I just assumed, since this is where you proposed to your wife, that you were celebrating your anniversary." The words hit the table like a bomb. Sophia's face went white. "His wife?" "Oh, yes," Christina continued cheerfully. "David Santos. He proposed right here in our restaurant 5 years ago. Such a romantic story. His wife still talks about it." David looked like he was going to be sick. There's been a misunderstanding." "Has there?" Christina's tone was still sweet, but her eyes were sharp. "Because Mrs. Santos mentioned she might be joining you. She was so excited to surprise you." "Mrs. Santos?" Sophia's voice was barely a whisper. "His wife, dear. Lovely woman. She's been looking forward to this trip for months." I watched from across the room as David's carefully constructed lies fell apart. Sophia stood up so quickly her chair nearly fell over. "You're married?" she hissed. "Sophia, I can explain." You're married and you brought me to the place where you proposed to your wife? It's not what you think. What I think is that you're a lying bastard who's been playing me for a fool. The entire restaurant was now watching their table. Other diners were whispering, pointing, clearly enjoying the drama unfolding before them. Sophia, please, sit down. Let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on your wife with me? That you've been lying to me for months? That you made me the other woman without even telling me? She grabbed her purse and stormed out of the restaurant, leaving David sitting alone at his romantic table for two, surrounded by rose petals and the wreckage of his perfect plan. I finished my dinner slowly, savoring every bite and every moment of David's humiliation. When I finally left the restaurant, I walked right past his table, close enough that he could have reached out and touched me. But he didn't see me. He was too busy staring at his phone, probably trying to figure out how to salvage his ruined vacation. Back in my suite, I poured myself a glass of wine and stepped onto the balcony. The ocean was calm, the stars were bright, and somewhere 3 doors down, my husband was probably having the worst night of his life. I was having the best night of mine. But I wasn't done yet. This was just the first act. The real show was about to begin, because David had no idea that his wife was here, watching his every move, documenting his every mistake. He had no idea that Sophia's dramatic exit was just the beginning of his problems, and he definitely had no idea about the phone call I was about to make. I dialed the number I'd been saving for exactly this moment. Peterson Industries, this is James Peterson. Mr. Peterson, this is Maria Santos. I believe you know my husband, David. Of course, David's one of our top account managers. Is everything all right? Well, that depends on how you define all right. I'm calling to let you know that David is currently at a resort in the Caribbean on what he told me was a business trip to meet with clients. But he's actually here with his mistress, using company time and resources for a romantic getaway. There was a long pause. I see. And you're certain about this? I'm looking at them right now. Well, I was until his girlfriend stormed out after discovering he's married. I have photos, receipts, and documented proof that he's been using your company as a cover for his affair. Mrs. Santos, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. David's employment with Peterson Industries will be reviewed immediately. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I thought you should know what kind of man you're trusting with your business relationships. I hung up and smiled. David's perfect job, the one that had kept him away from me all those nights, the one that had given him the freedom to conduct his affair, was about to disappear. But I still wasn't done. I opened my laptop and began typing. Social media posts, emails to mutual friends, messages to David's family. I told them everything. The affair, the lies, the betrayal. I shared photos of his secret vacation, screenshots of his messages with Sophia, proof of his double life. Within hours, David's entire social circle would know the truth about their marriage. His friends would know he was a cheater. His family would know he was a liar. His professional network would know he was untrustworthy. By morning, David Santos would have nothing left but the ruins of his perfect life. And I would have everything I needed to rebuild mine. I woke up at sunrise, feeling more rested than I had in months. Through my balcony doors, I could see the ocean stretching endlessly toward the horizon, painted in shades of gold and pink by the early morning light. Somewhere 3 doors down, my husband was probably just waking up to the first day of his new reality. I ordered room service, fresh fruit, pastries, and the best coffee I'd ever tasted. I ate breakfast on my balcony, watching the resort come to life below me. Couples walked hand in hand along the beach, families played in the pool, and everyone looked happy and carefree. Everyone except David, who appeared on his balcony at 8 a.m., looking like he hadn't slept at all. His phone was pressed to his ear, and even from 3 doors away, I could hear the desperation in his voice. Sophia, please, just let me explain. It's not what you think. He paced back and forth, running his free hand through his hair. I know how it looks, but my marriage, it's complicated. I was going to leave her. I was going to tell you everything. Lies. All lies. But he was desperate enough to say anything to salvage his situation. Don't hang up. Sophia, please. I love you. This trip was supposed to be about us, about our future. I watched him end the call and stare at his phone, probably realizing that Sophia had blocked him. His perfect mistress, his escape from his boring wife, had vanished overnight. But David's problems were just beginning. At 9 a.m., his phone rang. I could hear him answer from my balcony. Peterson Industries? Yes, this is David Santos. There was a long pause. I'm sorry, what? Immediate review? Mr. Peterson, I don't understand. I'm on a business trip, representing the company. Another pause, this one longer. A resort in the Caribbean? How did you... Yes, I'm here, but it's for business, client meetings. I could practically hear his lies crumbling. My wife called you? Mr. Peterson, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My wife she's not well. She's been having some problems, making up stories. Even from 3 doors away, I could see his hands shaking. Photos? What photos? Mr. Peterson, I can explain everything. This is all a big misunderstanding. The call ended abruptly. David stared at his phone like it had betrayed him, which, in a way, it had. All those messages with Sophia, all those lies he'd told, all those receipts I'd screenshot, they were all evidence now. Evidence of a man who'd thrown away everything for a woman who wouldn't even take his calls. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Holy shit, Maria. David's been trying to call you all morning. He sounds frantic. Also, did you really post those screenshots on Facebook? I smiled and typed back. Had to make sure everyone knew the truth about my devoted husband. You're diabolical. I love it. How's the vacation? I took a selfie on my balcony, the ocean sparkling behind me, looking every inch the woman who'd taken back her power. Best vacation of my life, I typed back. By noon, David's phone was ringing constantly. I could hear him through the walls, his voice getting more desperate with each call. Mom, please, let me explain. Maria's telling everyone that I'm having an affair, but it's not true. She's making it up because she's jealous of my success. Even his own mother wasn't buying his lies. Dad, you have to believe me. I would never cheat on Maria. She's the love of my life. These photos are fake. She must have hired someone to create them. The denial was almost impressive in its creativity. Mike, you've got to help me. Maria's gone crazy. She's posting lies about me online, ruining my reputation. Can you take down the Facebook posts? As my lawyer, can't you do something? But there was nothing anyone could do. The truth was out, spread across social media like wildfire. David's carefully constructed image as a devoted husband and successful businessman was being incinerated by his own actions. That afternoon, I decided to go for a walk on the beach. I put on my new bikini, the one that made me look like a goddess, and grabbed a book. I wanted to enjoy this paradise, this place that was supposed to be about love and romance. It was about love and romance, just not the kind David had planned. I was lying on the beach, reading and soaking up the sun, when I heard footsteps on the sand behind me. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Maria. David's voice was hoarse, broken. I turned slowly, lowering my sunglasses to look at him. He looked terrible. His college t-shirt was wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and his eyes were red-rimmed with exhaustion and panic. Hello, David. What are you doing here? I'm on vacation, at the resort where you proposed to me. Remember, our special place? His face went white. You knew. You knew about Sophia, about your secret romantic getaway, about the fact that you've been lying to me for months? I sat up, every movement deliberate and controlled. Yes, David, I knew. How? Does it matter? What matters is that your wife found out about your affair, and now everyone else knows too. David looked around the beach, probably hoping no one was listening, but several other guests were watching us with obvious interest. The drama had followed him even here. Maria, we need to talk, privately. Why? So you can lie to me some more? So you can tell me that Sophia was just a business associate? That the romantic suite was a mistake? That the couple's massage was for networking? David's jaw worked soundlessly. He looked like a man drowning in his own deception. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? That you've been cheating on me for 8 months? That you spent thousands of our money on gifts for your mistress? That you brought her to the place where you proposed to me? Each word hit him like a physical blow. Other beachgoers were definitely listening now, some of them taking pictures with their phones. I never meant for it to happen, he whispered. But it did happen, again and again and again. For months, David. While I was at home, planning our future, trying to get pregnant with your children, you were planning your escape with another woman. The pregnancy thing. Maria, I wanted to tell you, but the timing was never right. Tell me what? I got a vasectomy 2 years ago. I didn't want kids, but I didn't know how to tell you. The beach seemed to tilt around me. 2 years. We'd been trying for a baby for 2 years, and he'd been letting me believe it was my fault we couldn't conceive. You let me go through fertility testing. You let me think something was wrong with me. I was going to tell you. When? After you left me for Sophia? After you'd gotten everything you wanted from our marriage? David started to speak, but I held up my hand. Don't. Just don't. There's nothing you can say that will make this better. I stood up, gathering my things. Enjoy the rest of your vacation, David. I hope it was worth it. Where are you going? Home. To file for divorce. To start over. To build a life with someone who actually wants to be in it. I walked away, leaving him standing alone on the beach where we'd once walked hand in hand, planning our future together. That evening, I had dinner at the resort's most exclusive restaurant. I wore my most stunning dress, did my hair and makeup perfectly, and looked like a woman who had never been more beautiful or more dangerous. The maitre d' seated me at the best table in the house, with a perfect view of the ocean. I ordered the most expensive wine on the menu and toasted myself. To new beginnings, I said aloud, raising my glass. At the table behind me, I heard a familiar voice. Excuse me, is this seat taken? I turned to see a man about my age, tall and attractive, with kind eyes and a smile that seemed genuine. It is now, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. I'm James, he said, sitting down, and you're the woman who was the talk of the resort for the past 2 days. Am I? The staff is calling it the best drama they've seen in years. Cheating husband, secret wife, public confrontation. You're famous. Infamous, more like. I prefer legendary. I'm James Peterson, by the way. The name hit me like a lightning bolt. Peterson? As in Peterson Industries? The same. I flew down here as soon as I heard about the situation with David. I wanted to see for myself what kind of man I'd been trusting with my business. And what did you conclude? That he's an idiot who threw away the most intelligent, beautiful woman I've ever met for a secretary who won't even take his calls. James Peterson was nothing like David. He was confident without being arrogant, successful without being flashy, and genuinely interested in what I had to say. I have a proposition for you, he said over dessert. I'm listening. I'm looking for a new marketing director. Someone smart, strategic, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. Someone who can think 10 steps ahead of the competition. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. David's position is obviously vacant, and I need someone I can trust to rebuild that department. Someone who proves their loyalty through actions, not words. I thought about it for approximately 3 seconds. When do I start? How about Monday? I'll have my assistant book you a flight back to New York. First class, naturally. Naturally. We talked until midnight about business, about life, about the future. He was intelligent, ambitious, and refreshingly honest. Everything David had pretended to be. When he walked me back to my suite, he paused at my door. Maria, I want you to know that I'm not trying to take advantage of your situation. This job offer is legitimate based on what I've seen of your strategic thinking and your ability to execute a plan. And if I wanted you to take advantage of my situation? He smiled, the kind of smile that made me remember what it felt like to be desired by a man who actually saw me. Then I'd suggest we discuss that after you've had time to heal from your divorce. A woman like you deserves to be chosen, not to be someone's rebound. I kissed him gently on the cheek. Thank you, James, for everything. Thank you for showing me what integrity looks like, and for getting rid of the worst employee I've ever had. The next morning, I packed my bags and prepared to return to New York. I was leaving paradise, but I was bringing something better with me. A new job, a new life, and a new understanding of my own worth. As I waited for my taxi, I saw David one last time. He was checking out at the front desk, looking like a man who'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Our eyes met across the lobby. He started to walk toward me, but I shook my head. Goodbye, David, I said, loud enough for him to hear. He stopped, his shoulders sagging in defeat. Maria, please, Can we at least talk about this like adults? Adults don't cheat on their spouses and lie about wanting children. Adults don't steal from their marriages to fund their affairs. Adults don't betray the people who love them most. I know I screwed up, but 6 years of marriage has to count for something. It does. It counts as 6 years of my life I'll never get back. 6 years of loving someone who was planning his escape from the very beginning. The taxi pulled up outside. "I'm sorry," David said quietly. "I'm so sorry, Maria." "I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry you lost your job. You're sorry Sophia won't return your calls. You're sorry your perfect plan fell apart." I picked up my suitcase and walked toward the door. "But you're not sorry you hurt me. You're not sorry you lied to me. You're not sorry you wasted years of my life." I paused at the door and looked back one last time. And that's exactly why I'll never forgive you. The taxi ride to the airport was peaceful. I watched the resort disappear behind me, taking with it the last remnants of my old life. David Santos thought he was getting the perfect vacation with his perfect mistress. Instead, he got exposed, humiliated, and destroyed. But here's what he never understood. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. This was about a woman who'd been underestimated, betrayed, and discarded, deciding to take back her power. This was about consequences. And this was about the fact that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting everything. 6 months later, I was living in a penthouse apartment in Manhattan, working as the marketing director for Peterson Industries and dating the most eligible bachelor in New York City. David was living in a studio apartment in Queens, working as a junior salesman at a struggling insurance company, and still trying to get Sophia to return his calls. But this story isn't over yet. Because 3 weeks ago, I got a call that changed everything. "Mrs. Santos, this is Detective Martinez with the NYPD. We need to talk to you about your husband's activities over the past year." Ex-husband, I corrected. "The divorce was finalized months ago." "Yes, ma'am. We're investigating a series of financial crimes, and David Santos's name has come up in connection with several fraudulent accounts." Financial crimes. Fraudulent accounts. What kind of crimes? Embezzlement, identity theft, and wire fraud. It appears your ex-husband has been stealing from his employers and his clients for over 2 years. 2 years. The entire time he'd been planning his affair with Sophia, he'd also been planning something much darker. We believe he was using the money to fund his lifestyle and his extramarital relationship. But here's the interesting part, Mrs. Santos. All of the accounts were opened using your personal information. My blood ran cold. My information? Social security number, credit history, employment records. Your ex-husband has been committing identity theft on a massive scale, and he's been using your identity to do it. That's impossible. I would have known. Not if he was intercepting your mail, monitoring your credit reports, and using his access to your personal information to cover his tracks. The room spun around me. David hadn't just been cheating on me. He'd been using me as an unwitting accomplice in his crimes. "Mrs. Santos, we need you to come in for questioning. You're not a suspect, but you may be the key to unraveling this entire operation." I hung up the phone and stared at my reflection in the window of my penthouse apartment. The woman looking back at me was successful, confident, and powerful. But she was also the victim of a crime that went far deeper than infidelity. David Santos hadn't just betrayed his wife. He'd destroyed her credit, stolen her identity, and used her as a shield for his criminal activities. And now he was going to pay for all of it. But that's not the most terrifying part of this story. The most terrifying part is what I discovered when I met with the detective. David wasn't working alone. Sophia Martinez wasn't just his mistress. She was his partner in crime. And the vacation to Bella Vista? It wasn't a romantic getaway. It was a money laundering operation. Every gift David bought for Sophia, every luxury they enjoyed, every penny they spent was stolen from someone else. And according to the detective, I wasn't David's first victim. He'd been married before. 3 times, actually. All 3 of his previous wives had mysterious financial problems during their marriages. Credit destroyed, savings depleted, investments lost. All 3 divorces had been contentious, with David claiming his wives were mentally unstable, financially irresponsible, and vindictive. All 3 women had tried to press charges. But David had always managed to stay one step ahead of the law. Until now. Because this time, he'd picked the wrong woman to betray. This time, he'd picked a woman who documented everything, who planned ahead, who thought strategically. This time, he'd picked a woman who'd already proven she could destroy his life with nothing but the truth. And now, armed with evidence of his crimes, I was going to make sure David Santos never hurt another woman again. The detective looked at me across the table in the police station and smiled. "Mrs. Santos, I have to ask, did you know about any of this when you orchestrated that vacation confrontation?" "No," I said honestly. "I thought he was just a cheating husband. I had no idea he was a criminal." "But you documented everything anyway. You kept records, took screenshots, saved receipts. I'm thorough." "You're brilliant. Your evidence is going to put him away for a very long time." I thought about David, probably still trying to rebuild his life, still believing he'd gotten away with everything except adultery. He had no idea that his perfect crime was about to become his perfect downfall. And he had no idea that the woman he'd underestimated, betrayed, and discarded was going to be the one to bring him to justice. 6 months ago, I'd thought I was getting revenge for infidelity. Now I realized I'd been building a case for crimes I didn't even know existed. David Santos had spent years thinking he was smarter than everyone around him. He was about to learn that the smartest thing he could have done was never cross Maria Santos. Because hell hath no fury like a woman who's been underestimated. And I was just getting started.